For homework, you're asked to do Connect problem 11-23. But to solve problem 11-23, first you need to work problem 11-22. So they're really combined into one question in the Connect homework. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first part of that problem. In the first part of the problem, we need to allocate the direct costs of our maintenance and cafeteria departments to buildings A and B. We can think of these as Department A or Department B. And then once we've allocated those costs to Building A and Building B, or Department A and Department B, then we're going to allocate those costs to two different jobs, a job RW12 and an RW13. But first, let's go ahead and do our allocation. We're given our cost information, and we're given our proportion of services used by the various departments. And we're told we're going to use the direct method. So under the direct method, the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and take our cost for the maintenance department, take $400,000 out of the maintenance department, and allocate it to Building A. And the amount that's going to be allocated to Building A will be 400,000 times 0.5, which is our proportion used by Building A, divided by 0.8, which would be the sum of the 0.5 and the 0.3, for $250,000. And then 400,000 times 0.3 divided by 0.8, or 150,000, will be allocated to Building B. For our cafeteria, we're going to take $320,000 out of the cafeteria, and we're going to allocate half of that to Building A and the other half to Building B. Finally, to make sure that we've reconciled our cost, let's total up our columns horizontally, and let's sum our bottom columns. And we can see our maintenance cost sums to 0 and our cafeteria cost sums to 0. So now we're going to need to allocate the $410,000 in overhead that was charged to Building A or Department A to the two products. And we're going to have to allocate the $310,000 in cost that was allocated to Building B to our two jobs. So that's going to be the next step in this process. All right, we're given the following information regarding the usage in Building A and Building B. In Building A, we're told that we're going to allocate the costs or overheads assigned to Building A on the basis of direct labor hours, which was 160 and 20 to the two jobs, RW12 and RW13. The cost in Building B will be allocated on the basis of machine hours, which is 40 for RW12 and 180 for RW13. So our first step is we need to calculate a predetermined overhead rate to allocate our costs of $410,000 and $310,000. Our predetermined overhead rate, you recall, is simply our cost divided by our activity. In this case, our total cost of $410,000 will be allocated over our 180 total direct labor hours, and we get a predetermined overhead rate of $2,277.78. Our cost in Building B will be allocated, or we'll calculate a predetermined overhead rate by taking the $310,000 and dividing it by the 220 machine hours in Building B, and we get a rate of $1,409. Next, we're going to pick up those two predetermined overhead rates down here on our bottom section. And finally, we're going to take our actual activity level, and we will use our actual activity level of 160 labor hours for Building A, multiplied by our predetermined overhead rate of $2,277 to get a cost allocation of $364,444 to job R12. The cost of Building A, the remaining cost, of course, will be allocated to job RW13, and we would get that by taking our same predetermined overhead rate of 2,277 hours and multiplying it by the 20 direct labor hours. Our cost of Building B then will be allocated using the predetermined overhead rate for Building B, or think of it Department B, of $1,409 multiplied by our 40 machine hours for job 12 for a total of $56,363. For job 13, we've got 180 machine hours, and we'll multiply that by our predetermined overhead rate to get a total of $253,636. To confirm, we can add up our total cost for building A that we've allocated, 410, which equals the overhead that we had to allocate, and our 310,000 total cost for B equals the 310 we had to allocate. So in terms of our total cost for job RW12, we will have 420,000. That's the 364 plus the 56. Our total cost of job RW13 will be 299,000, which is the $45,000 for building A plus the 253 allocated from building B.